Hey everybody, this is going to be about your exponent law number 1 and number 2. This is going to be about product rule and quotient rule. So what the product rule is really stating is that if you have, say, the base of 2 that has the power of 5 and it's multiplied to the base of 2 to the power of 3. Let's see what that is. So if we were to write this in expanded form, we can say that this one is going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And this basically all these rules and all the laws about exponents is just really a shortcut of figuring the answer out. You can just do this individually, but this is just a law that, hey, if I have a shortcut, why not take it? So here's 2 to the power of 5. If we have 2 to the power of 3, so this is going to be 2 times 2 times 2. Since these two numbers are multiplied, this is very important. They're multiplied together. So what's the answer? 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. 16, 32, 64, 128, and 256. So this is 256. So if you were to look at this, how many 2's do we use? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the 2's were actually multiplied by itself 8 times. Do we all have the same base? Are all these the same numbers? Yeah, so I mean, if we go back to my previous video about the photocopy machine, we're photocopying this number 2, and how many times do we photocopy? Well, 8 times. So your base is 2, and since you have 8, well, that's your exponent. So how do we get here to there? Well, if you look at the exponents, you have 5 and 3. Well, how do we get 8 from that? You add. So the product rule basically is saying that if it's multiplying two numbers with the same base, so they have the same base, and they're multiplying to each other, you just add the exponents. So we can have 100 times 2 to the 100, or 101. This is going to be, if you add the exponent, 201. We can have the same base as 5 times something 5. You can have, say, 5 and negative 5. And you might be wondering, well, what do we do with the zeros? You still apply the same sort of rule, where since these are same base, they're multiplying together, and you add the exponents. So 5 plus 5 plus negative 5, sorry. So here's my base. This is going to be 5 to the power of 0, which gives you 1. If you look at other ones, such as negative numbers, say 5 to the negative 4, well, since they're still following the rule because they are the same base and they're multiplying to each other, you're still adding them. So negative 3 plus a negative 4, which gives you 5 to the power of negative 7. So the rule basically just gives you a shortcut in recognizing the pattern of same base, multiply. I keep saying that multiply because this is a very tricky part, because a lot of people, once they do a lot of these ones and they see these questions and they just assume that, oh yeah, it looks like product rule number 1 because they have the same base, so I'm just going to add the exponent. But it's not, because if we were to look at example like 2 to the power of 3 plus 2 to the power of 2, and compare that to 2 to the power of 3 times 2 to the power of 2. Well, we know that this is a product rule because product means multiply, same base. So this is 2 to the power of 5 because 2 plus 3 is 5. Is the answer the same as this? So if we were to look at this, 2 to the power of 3 is 8. That's my answer in standard form. 2 to the power of 2 is 4. So 8 plus 4 is 12. Well, what's 2 to the power of 5? 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it's 32. You can clearly see that 12 is not the same as 32. So one really important thing you need to know is this. It has to be multiplied. They have to have the same base. Otherwise, your product rule won't work. And you might be wondering, well, what if you do get a plus then? Well, if you do get a plus, then you just have to break them down individually, and then finally you add them. So that's really the trick. So the next law that we have is your law number 2, which is your quotient. This sort of goes hand in hand with your multiply law, because this quotient rule, which is just another word for division, is similar to multiplying, except instead of adding, you subtract. So if you have a base of 4 to the power of 3 over 4 to 2, remember, fractions means division. So your fraction line means division. This can also be written as 4 to the power 3 divided by 4 to the power of 2. Exactly the same thing. So if you get this answer, you should get to 4 to the power of 1, because 3 subtract 2 is 1. This is going to be 4 to the power of 1. If you want to see this, make sense out of it instead of just taking my word of subtracting, well, write it in expanded form. 4 times 4 times 4, that's the top. Divide by 4 times 4 at the bottom. That's expanded form. Well, anytime you're dividing by the same number, 4 divided by 4, that's 1, so that cancels and cancels. What do you have left? Just 4, which is invisible 1. That's what happens with division or the quotient rule. So this one, it's easier to follow than the multiplication rule, because you know it has to be dividing. If it's adding, you won't get confused with the multiplying. But you just have to recognize that fraction line also represents division as well. So if we have another question that looks like more negative numbers, say 5 to the power of negative 3 divided by 5 to the power of negative 5. Now it's like, well, we have two negative numbers. What do we do? Well, just still follow your rules. You know your base is the same, so just write your base. So that's your base. That's what you're photocopying. At the top, you had negative 3 at the numerator. The rule says you're subtracting, so this is going to be your subtract. So your subtract, and then you write your exponent from the bottom. So that's your negative, so it's going to be negative 5. Okay, so this is going to be negative 3 plus 5. Oh, there's my base. So your final answer is positive 5. You can also write it in expanded form, and then you can see that you would actually have a, wait, this should be positive 2. There we go. You can see that there is a remaining negative 2 in the denominator, but that's going into negative exponents, which we won't talk about in this video yet. But that's what you do for quotient rule. So you have two laws: multiplying for your product rule, which you add it when they have the same base, and quotient law, you subtract the exponents. Those are just shorthand form of doing exponents. So see you next time.